Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day, and I want to say a big thank you to people who left a couple of corrections in the comments of the previous episode. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it felt like I couldn't get the chests onto the donkey before, which is why I said that donkeys cannot have an inventory that they can carry with them. It turns out they can. I just walked out here with a chest, right-clicked on the donkey, and it popped right on, so I'm not sure what I was doing wrong before. Maybe I was just clicking on something that I shouldn't have been or something, but either way, the donkey is now equipped with chests, which gives it 15 slots of inventory that we can use to transport some stuff around. We've also got the pig down here, and the other correction that I saw in the comments, a really useful one actually, was that you can use a broken fishing rod to create a carrot on a stick. You can at least use a fishing rod that has had some of its durability used up in order to create a carrot on a stick. You just have to be very specific about placing the crafting recipe in the crafting interface instead of shift-clicking it or using the recipe book. But today I'm going to grab something else from this chest, actually. We're going to grab the brush because we are once again going to head out in search of some archaeology we can do. Today we're going to track down the ocean ruins in a warm ocean in the hopes of finding a sniffer egg so that we can talk about sniffers. This feels like a week in which we're going to be discussing some of the other animals in Minecraft, and so I feel like a sniffer seems like a good thing to introduce to the series right now. Along with the brush, I'm going to grab a chest boat, and I'm also going to grab some of the water-breathing potions that we brewed up in previous episodes, because those will be super handy if we're going to be spending long periods of time underwater. I think the best place to start is going to be over by the Savannah Village, which we have a portal to, so let's head over there, and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, so here we are over at the Savannah Village, and I've started here because it's a warm biome, so it stands to reason that a lot of warm ocean is going to generate around this and its neighbors. And it looks like there is a decent patch of it here. You can tell because of the lighter color of the water, which ocean biome you are looking at. And we are going to be looking for ruins under the ocean surface made of sandstone. They might be a little bit difficult to spot in areas where the ocean floor is mostly made of sand, but they are out there, and you will often find them when you're cruising around. You'll notice lights under the surface. Like over here, for example, where you can see a sandstone formation under the surface lit from below. This is going to be a prime target for looking for suspicious sand, much like we did in the desert temple in the previous episode where we talked about archaeology. But you need to be wary when you approach these structures, because more often than not, they can be guarded by the drowned. This one looks like it is pretty safe though, and I've already spotted a block of suspicious sand down here. So I'm going to pause very briefly. I'm going to crouch above this magma block to replenish my air supply, and I think from here we should be able to use the brush on that suspicious sand, being very careful once again to make sure that it doesn't fall and break. And we'll see what we get from it. You're not guaranteed to get a sniffer egg, of course. In this case, we've just got ourselves a piece of coal. Let's see if there's any more suspicious sand elsewhere in the structure. It looks like there is one patch of that over here, so let's brush that. And once again, it looks like we're getting a piece of coal for our trouble. I'm also getting a little low on oxygen, so you know what? Let's do a little bit more excavation of this structure using a water-breathing potion, which should give us 8 minutes of walking around down here uninterrupted. Now, this is not suspicious gravel, so even though there's gravel down here, I'm pretty sure that is not what we are looking for. It's worth noting that the underwater sea grass can also generate on top of some of the suspicious sand, so you might want to carefully break away some of the seagrass that you see on the surface, just in case there is suspicious sand below it, like there is right here. Let's give this a quick brush and see what we get. That's looking like a sheaf of wheat to me, not to worry, and the drowned have already started showing up. Incidentally, the drowned will drop copper occasionally, so that can be nice to have if you want to restore your brush after a long day's use. There are 2 more blocks of suspicious sand just down here. Unfortunately, I don't have great lighting options down here on the ocean floor, so hopefully you'll be able to see what's coming out of this. That is another piece of coal, it looks like, and this one, that looks like a stone hoe to me, yep. Which kind of hints that this was an agrarian society at one point. They used to harvest crops and that kind of thing before their civilization sunk beneath the waves. That looks like all of the suspicious sand that I can spot from the surface, but there might still be a few blocks hidden here and there. You might occasionally find them underneath the pillars of these structures in kind of the same way that there are some buried patches of it in desert temples. So I'm going to carefully knock away some of these blocks to see if any suspicious sand dwells below them, but if it doesn't, we can call it quits and move on to the next area. Yep, all I'm uncovering underneath the sand layers around here is stone and gravel, so it looks like we are done here. That's unfortunate, but not to worry. There are still going to be plenty of ocean ruins out there that we can explore. Oh, it was a wooden hoe, not a stone one. Not to worry, we can fill up our raft here with the stuff that we found. Obviously, there was a little bit of coal in there as well, but let's move on and see if we can find another ocean ruin. Ruined nether portals and shipwrecks don't count in this particular case, while it is probably worth diving down to them to get a couple of bits and pieces, like the gold blocks. Always worth having a couple of those, and to see what's in the chest in case it's anything useful. Most of the time, you're not going to find these coinciding with the warm ocean ruins that we're looking for, and you won't find any suspicious gravel around these, at least not in this update. Besides that, it's also pretty clear that that nether portal was in a colder ocean biome. It may still be a lukewarm ocean, but you'll find ocean ruins generating in those with stone bricks instead of sandstone. And while you will find suspicious gravel in those ocean ruins, and it's worth checking that out when you have a moment, you will not find sniffer eggs there. They are exclusive to ocean ruins found in warm ocean biomes, specifically the ones with sandstone. This right here looks promising. There's not a whole lot of light coming from it, but I noticed a couple of magma blocks, and yes, a drowned is rising out of the water to meet us. We've got a minute left on our water breathing, so let's see if we can brush a couple of these blocks and grab whatever is inside. That's just a gold ingot, or a gold nugget rather. That's not something we need to be too concerned about. Let's take a quick look around here. Once again, brushing some of the seagrass off the top of the surface here so that we can better take a look at the suspicious sand blocks. It looks like we've got a pottery sherd coming through here. That is a different pottery sherd than the types we will find in desert temples, so always good to know that that is out there. Let's see if we can spot any more suspicious sand around the outside here. Looks like there aren't any other blocks of suspicious sand immediately visible, so I'm going to skim off the top layer here, and there are a couple, as I said, underneath these pillars, so it's worth brushing that to see if that's going to yield anything. That looks like another wooden hoe, unfortunately. Let's take a sand block off the top of this chest so that we can see what's inside. There is a buried treasure map, so that might be worth investigating, but it looks like my water breathing potion is about to run out, so I'm going to have to return to the surface. And after a couple more dives down to the ocean floor, it looks like we are not going to get a sniffer egg from this ruin either. Not to worry, let's go looking for more. Here's another ocean ruin formation, and nighttime is actually a really good time to search for these, because many of them will have magma blocks or other light sources which make them a little more visible from the surface. And you can actually see, as we dive down here, that there are several structures. There is a small house here, another one over there, one here, there's a couple to either side of us. This is really what you want to be looking for, because these will contain multiple opportunities for suspicious sand blocks. They will also have a lot more drowned guarding them, so make sure you bring a good sword, potentially even with smite if you want to deal a little extra damage. I will also recommend bringing a shield with you, or at least staying maneuverable, because some drowned can spawn with tridents, which are pretty lethal from range. But it looks like for the most part we have dealt with the drowned that generated as part of the structures, so it should be safe for us now to dive under with water breathing and take a quick look around at the suspicious sand opportunities. First of all, there's definitely a block of it here. Let's give that a quick brush, and it looks like we have struck what we wanted, folks. We found ourselves a sniffer egg, and we get the advancement smells interesting. So unlike chicken eggs, a sniffer egg is a massive thing that you hold in your inventory, and you can actually place down on a block in order to wait for the sniffer to hatch from inside. They are dormant here on the ocean floor when we find them in the suspicious sand, but we should hopefully be able to resurrect this mob from the past when we take it home. Now, ideally, we're going to be looking for a second sniffer egg, because of course one animal on its own will not be enough to breed. Sniffers do need to breed in order to reproduce, so we're going to need to find a couple more blocks of suspicious sand. I did spot one over there, but I'm going to look around this structure here and be kind of systematic about it before we move on to one of the surrounding ruins. Looks like the majority of this one is all cleared out though, so I'm going to go to the nearest suspicious sand block that I've already seen, which is this one over here, and there are a couple of others right next door to it. That's another sheaf of wheat, it looks like. This one here is giving us, I think that's an iron axe. You do occasionally get axes in the loot chests in these ocean ruins, so that's kind of emulating the loot we might find there. That looks to be an emerald. There's one more round the back here. Let's see if we get anything interesting from this. That is another wooden hoe. That makes 3 at this point. A suspicious sand block was underneath this little pile at the back here, so that's another emerald for me. And we might as well see if this loot chest has anything interesting. A bit more wheat, another stone axe in there, and a gold helmet, which I think I will leave. That is our 4th wooden hoe of the day. What do we got in this one? Well, make that a 5th. And that looks like another gold nugget for our trouble. I'll peel away some of the sand from the top layer and see if we have any more suspicious sand. Yes, there is one more block of suspicious sand over here. So like I said, it is worth occasionally excavating these ruins just in case a suspicious sand block has generated with a structure of some sort over the top of it. Let's see what we get from this one. No surprises there. It's another wooden hoe. I'm going to leave some of these in the chest here, I think, along with the rotten flesh that I've been scavenging from the drowned. The Unbreaking 3 fishing rod is kind of nice. We might as well take that with us since it is enchanted. No more suspicious sand on this side. Oh, wait, no, there is one there. Always pays to look, doesn't it? Well, in this case, maybe it doesn't. This whole structure seems to have been the farming supply shed. This structure over here had some light blue terracotta, a mending fishing rod, a little bit of coal, and some wheat. But it doesn't seem to have too many blocks of suspicious sand around it. In fact, I'm not seeing any. So once again, we're going to peel off the top layer of sand just in case there are any hidden. Moving on to the next structure, we have another emerald coming out of the suspicious sand block here. This one in the middle contains another pottery sherd, which I will gladly accept. That is another shelter pottery sherd. Another gold nugget came out of that one, another sheaf of wheat out of this one. I'm wondering if the sniffer eggs are most commonly found in the large central structures of these multi-structure ruins. I don't know that for certain yet. I was under the impression that these items were sort of randomly distributed, but we can maybe test that thesis a little later on. And there is one last structure left to investigate over here, which I'm going to try and do without the aid of any water breathing potions. So you know what? I might stick down a magma block here to replenish my air supply while I brush. That looks like another wooden hoe. We just got another emerald from the blocks around us. Let's dig around a little bit and see if we find any more. There are 2 more suspicious sand blocks here, so 2 more chances for us to get a sniffer egg. That is another golden nugget. 2 more suspicious sand blocks, 2 more golden nuggets. This looks like everything we're going to be getting from this little cluster of ruins. So we have 1 more water-breathing potion left. We are still looking for 1 more sniffer egg before we return home, so let's look around and see if we can find any more warm ocean ruins. Oh, this is a rare opportunity. A section of the ocean ruin over here has actually generated on land, but that means some of the suspicious sand we can expect to find here has generated on the surface, so there's no need to use any of our water-breathing potions to excavate this, and it looks like we are getting yet another shelter pottery sherd. Well, that's going to go in the chest boat. We'll remove a couple more of the sand blocks, and as you can see, that has uncovered a couple more suspicious sand blocks. Seems like this is going to have a treasure map in it from the fact that it's taking a minute to calculate the position of the treasure before it opens, and it can't find one, so it actually gives us an empty map that's called Buried Treasure Map, but as you can see, does not show us the location of any buried treasure. It hasn't been printed. But you know what? Let's brush some of this and see if we find any more sniffer eggs. At this point, I am getting suspicious that we're only going to find those in the bigger structures in the center of larger ocean ruin complexes, but it looks like at least we have the opportunity to brush a few more suspicious sand blocks here. And there is one hiding underneath this pillar right here, so we can give that a go. That's another pottery sherd, which is a very nice find, but unfortunately, not a sniffer egg. There is another sherd coming from this one, and that looks like a different one, a unique one, actually. That is the snort pottery sherd. It's dangling the carrot in front of our faces, friends, because that is the one that depicts the sniffer itself. This looks like a new one as well. Oh no, that's the angler pottery shard. We have had that one before. We got another emerald coming out of this one. And it looks like this has a new pottery sherd for us as well. Yep, that's another snort. So we now have 2 sniffer pottery sherds, but not 2 sniffer eggs. Another buried treasure map that doesn't have anything printed on it. Interesting. But the second sniffer egg still evades us, so let's return to the boat and keep looking. Okay, looks like we've struck lucky once again. We have a moderately sized ocean ruin patch down here. Hopefully not too many drowned are going to come out to fight us. Actually looks fairly quiet around here, which is a blessing. This looks like the kind of one where I'll be using up my last water-breathing potion in order to make sure I can survive down here. Nope, there are the drowned. I knew they'd turn up sooner or later. And this time, the first thing I'm going to do is find one of these ruins which contains a chest, just so I can drop off some of the extra items that I've got here in my inventory that I don't plan on bringing with us. Let's start over here with this suspicious sand block. Once again, I'm starting with this more central large structure in the hopes that that's going to provide us a sniffer egg. But this one actually seems relatively light on the suspicious sand blocks. I've only found one more over here and one more over here, so we might need to look a little further around this and do a more thorough check of the perimeter to make sure we aren't missing them behind some of this seagrass. There we go, we found one in this corner. That's just going to contain a gold nugget though. Oh, and I missed one here as well. Well, that's another sheaf of wheat, so that's nothing too important. We've got another buried treasure chest here with a generated treasure map this time. And the other block that's probably of interest to us here is these sea lanterns, which you can gather using Silk Touch. If you gather them with any other tool, they break down into their component parts of prismarine crystals. And the sea lanterns are going to be nice to bring with us for a couple of reasons here. The first of which is that you can only otherwise acquire them by raiding an ocean monument, which is something we can do fairly soon, but I'm not going to tackle it in this episode. And the other thing is that the sea lantern is a light source that works perfectly well underwater, which means the video doesn't have to be quite so dark as we brush away a few more of these suspicious sand blocks. And there it is! Oh, I'm so happy we found another one. From this other structure here, this ruin is at negative 1426, 1780 if you're looking for this in the same world, and I don't know for certain whether suspicious sand blocks generate with exactly the same loot, but that is where we have found our second sniffer egg. I will continue to search the other structures around here just in case they have anything interesting, but as far as I'm concerned, that is what we came here to do. So I'm going to brush a few more of these blocks, and then we're going to head back to base and try and hatch our first sniffers. Hey folks, welcome back. So I made it back to base. I've unloaded most of the raft. Obviously got a lot of sand and blocks and other stuff in my inventory, but the first thing we're going to do is place down these sniffer eggs so that they can hatch. And the trick with sniffer eggs, if you've got some moss nearby, is to place them on the moss, because sniffer eggs will hatch about twice as fast if you hatch them on moss compared to any other block. So I'm going to put the other egg here. Eventually this one will hatch, and they will hatch basically anywhere within a 20-minute span. So the one that's planted on the moss right now we can expect to hatch in about 10 minutes. And you don't really need to do anything else. You can just place them down in the world and leave them there. It would honestly be really cool in future if we got a way of preserving these sniffer eggs as they are. Maybe if the baby sniffer leaves the fragments of its shell behind and we can recraft them into an aesthetic sniffer egg. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. But right now we can't do anything about them. But sniffer eggs are pretty durable. You can jump up and down on top of these and nothing will happen to them. You can break the block below them. They're not affected by gravity or anything. And I only say this because some of the other eggs in the game are a bit more fragile. We haven't talked about turtles yet, but turtle eggs will break if you jump up and down on top of them. They are a lot smaller than sniffer eggs, and the ender dragon egg, which we will acquire when we go to the end, is affected by gravity. Plus chicken eggs, which we can gather elsewhere in the game, can't even be placed in the world. They can only be thrown, where they will either just break or they'll break and hatch into another chicken. While we wait for these sniffer eggs to hatch, we can at least take a look at the other pot sherds that we acquired on this trip. So we got the shelter, the snort, and the angler pottery sherds, which is going to put another shelter one in there as well. And we got the careful restoration advancement. That is for making a decorated pot out of 4 pottery sherds, something that we didn't have the capacity to before, because I think we only found 1 or 2 of them in the desert temple. And look at that, the sniffer egg that's planted on the moss just hatched 1 stage. We can take a look at the hatching stages here in the targeted block data on the right hand side of our debug info, but it's pretty clear that it's just gotten some cracks in it where the sniffer is trying to break through the shell. This one over here will probably do that in another couple of minutes, while this one will probably have moved on another stage by then. Let's take a look at these pottery sherds. The sniffer one is so adorable. I really do like that a lot. The angler and the shelter pottery sherds obviously represent a fishing rod and what looks like an acacia tree, which kind of implies that the ocean ruins that we're looking at might even have been part of a savanna biome at some point. Maybe a low-lying savanna biome that got overtaken by the waves. It's an interesting thought. Honestly though, I just like having one with 2 sniffer designs on it so that we can plant it over here. What a picture. Perhaps we'll save some of these angler pottery sherds to decorate our fishing house with. Either way, I'm going to wait a while for this sniffer egg to hatch and we can talk a little bit more about what a sniffer does. Just quickly checking in with the second stage of the sniffer's hatching process. This one now has a few cracks on it, but this egg just before that managed to progress to the next stage. So that's now at hatch level 2. And the following day, I'm delighted to welcome this new Snifflet into the world. Yes, baby sniffers are called Snifflets. This is canon. They have a massive head, a very, very large nose, and they just kind of trundle around on their 6 legs looking for stuff to sniff. So the purpose of Sniffers is to find 2 plants which are not accessible to the player through any other means. They'll walk around sniffing the air happily until they find a spot to sploot. And yes, once again, this is the canonical term for what they do. They plop themselves down in the world, they will sniff the ground and dig up the seeds for either a torch flower or a pitcher plant. In mechanical terms, they can dig on any grass or dirt type block which is not mycelium. So grass, moss, podzol, rooted dirt, coarse dirt, mud, all of those are viable targets for the sniffer to stop and dig up a seed. But mycelium, the dirt variant that you find on Mushroom Islands, is not, and that is apparently an intended mechanic. They just don't dig them up there. They will also remember the last 20 locations they dug up seeds, and will not dig there again until they've dug up a few more times. So it's important when you're raising sniffers, if you want to keep them contained within a certain area, to give them at least 21 blocks that they can dig in. 21 blocks is of course less than a 5x5 area, so you can keep your sniffers pretty well contained. Personally, I'm thinking we might just set up like a large paddock for them, like a field of sorts, that they can run around and dig some stuff up in. And in later episodes, we will look at how to automate the process of collecting all of the seeds that they find. Right now, as a Snifflet, though, this one isn't doing a great deal, so we're going to have to wait for it to grow up into a full-grown sniffer adult before we end up getting any rewards. Well, according to the timer on my recording, I placed these eggs roughly 20 minutes ago, and this one has been wandering around for about 10 minutes now, so I'm fairly certain this second egg should hatch any second, and we will get the second of our 2 sniffers. Of course, we will have to wait for them both to grow up into adults before we can breed the 2 of them, and once we breed them, we should receive another sniffer egg. But we need torch flower seeds in order to breed them, so we are going to have to wait for them to do a little bit of work before we end up breeding the 2 of them and getting any more sniffer eggs so that we can increase the size of our sniffer herd. There we go, we got a second sniffer, or Snifflet I should say, and look at these adorable little friends. They do of course get kind of noisy if you have more than a couple of them in one place, so you might want to find someplace out of the way to store your sniffers if you want to paddock them somewhere nearby. For now, in my case, I'm going to do what we did with the cows and just create a large fenced-off area where the sniffers can happily roam around sniffing for whatever flower seeds they feel like sniffing up. And I think we'll probably put in a variety of blocks. We've got the podzol over there. We're going to put some moss in here as well. Not that it makes a huge amount of difference, but of course, once we start hatching more sniffer eggs, we'll want to do that on moss to make sure that they hatch a little faster. This is only a temporary setup for now, and much like with the cows and sheep, what I want to do with these eventually is to create a sort of open field, like a pasture, where the sniffers and the other animals can freely roam around. We're going to make that out of a combination of cobblestone walls and different like bushes and that kind of thing, almost like it's got a combination drywall and hedge. And you can attach them to leads, so even if you don't have anything you can use to lure the sniffers, like their favorite food or whatever, you can still attach them to leads and drag them over into this enclosure. Seeing their animation speed up as they get pulled is also kind of adorable, but there we go. We have a little sniffer enclosure. Hopefully I've left enough room around these bushes that they won't be able to walk out over the tops of the fences once they grow up, but sniffers grow to be quite large, so we might have to make some adjustments as we go. Alright, that's phase 1 over, and I guess I'll see you folks when these sniffers are grown up. Okay, the sun is setting, so I'm gonna have to go to bed in a second just to make sure that mobs don't show up, but we have our first adult sniffer, and already it is digging up seeds for us. That is a pitcher pod, which will allow us to grow a pitcher plant. Very excited to have that, and look at how big they are compared to the Snifflets. They're like 3 times the size, and they're much larger than a player. But I'm really happy to have these things roaming around my backyard now. Let's get some sleep. So Sniffers, it turns out, take a lot longer to grow up than other mobs. They will actually take around 40 minutes to grow up. That's 2 full in-game day-night cycles, or 48,000 game ticks. I'm pretty sure I'm getting that right. But normally a baby cow will take about 20 minutes to grow up into an adult, so a sniffer takes twice as long. In the meantime, though, it should be happily wandering around sniffing up more seeds for us. We cannot feed the pitcher pods to it. It only accepts torchflower seeds as food, whether for healing or for breeding, so we're going to go and plant this. Now, the thing about pitcher pods and torchflower seeds is they actually grow different to other flowers. You can't just plant them on some sort of dirt variant surface. You need to plant them in farmland. And what better tools with which to do that than all of these wooden hoes that we managed to acquire from those ocean ruins? Of course, it all comes back around and makes sense now. So I'm going to start planting these around the sniffer enclosure, at least for now. We're going to find some surface that we can till, since you can't do that with podzol. Let's till that. Let's plant the pitcher pod there, and we get the advancement for planting the past. And these are another thing that I really wish, like the sniffer eggs, you could freeze in time, because those look so cool as almost like little turnips or something like that. But for now, at least, we're going to grab some bone meal and we're going to speed the growth process along. Now, I don't actually know if hydrating the neighboring farmland for pitcher pods will speed up the process. That's something I will need to get a little bit more experience with as we get them from the sniffers and once we can plant a full field of them. But for now, we can grow them through a couple of stages. Once again, those look absolutely spectacular when they are just in this block model form, but eventually they grow into a full-size pitcher plant, at which point they can be harvested. And even if we harvest this with fortune, all we get is the plant itself. We do not get any additional seeds from harvesting these plants. Those can only be acquired from the sniffer themselves. So we can plant these anywhere, and they don't need to be grown on farmland after they are fully grown, but these crops are kind of unique looking flowers, which can even be broken down for some cyan dye, which is the first time a flower has produced cyan dye in Minecraft Java Edition. For now, I think we'll leave this pitcher plant in here inside the sniffer enclosure as we wait for our second sniffer to grow up, and hopefully this sniffer here is going to sniff up some more seeds, and that will give us access to torch flowers. Okay, it's sniffed up another seed, and there they are, torchflower seeds. Now the sniffers are going to be taking a little bit more interest in me because, as I mentioned, torchflower seeds are their preferred food for eating and breeding. But we are, for now, going to plant these torchflower seeds over here, and once again use bone meal to have them grow into a torchflower. I've left a little water source underneath this slab here because otherwise the farmland was just going to revert and it would mean we... Oh, the other one just grew up right in front of my eyes. Well, let's make sure he stays inside the fence for now. But yeah, we were basically going to have to re-till that farmland every time otherwise. But now, at least, we can get hold of a torchflower, and these things are very pretty. Like the pitcher pods, they are kind of unique flowers. And it looks like our other sniffer has immediately splooted and is going to dig up something else. That's some more torchflower seeds. Okay, well, we're going to start stashing those in a chest over here so that we can breed the 2 sniffers and get ourselves a sniffer egg. But for now, the torchflower, like the pitcher pod, can be planted basically anywhere and really has this beautiful combination of colors in the flower. They look very unique compared to a lot of the other flowers we're used to here in this plains biome, so I think that's pretty spectacular to have. We'll throw the other torchflower seeds in here, and we'll monitor these sniffers every so often to see what else they're gonna sniff up. Okay, so it's been another day or so, and we've managed to sniff up a few more seeds. I got some pitcher pods, but we now have 2 torchflower seeds. They seem to do like a 50-50 chance whether it's a torchflower seed or a pitcher pod. There's no real bias towards either. But in this case, we're going to use the torchflower seeds to breed these 2 sniffers together, and instead of a baby snifflet being born, they simply produce an egg. If we wade in here, there we go. We got another sniffer egg, and it just so happens that the moss block I left in here is the perfect place to leave it. So these 2 sniffers are just going to be hanging around this egg. It's going to hatch in 10 minutes, but obviously take 40 minutes to grow up, and then we will have 3 sniffers and so on and so forth. Much like breeding any other animal, it's just a matter of acquiring the food and then taking the time. In the meantime, of course, we can plant a few more pitcher pods here around our water source and wait for those to grow up, and it might be worth actually testing whether or not hydrated farmland is going to increase the speed at which the pitcher plants grow. Either way, these two sniffers are going to live here happily, and I should be able to make a little corral for them once I've gathered a few more resources. But you know what? It's been a longer episode than I expected. We spent a lot of time out there in those ocean ruins, and hopefully you found that interesting. I want to at least convey how quick or slow it is to get hold of resources like sniffer eggs, and the different pot sherds and stuff like that are also kind of interesting and important. I don't want to give you folks the impression that you're going to find a sniffer egg almost immediately. It was a little bit of work trying to get hold of these, but the rewards are worth it. Just look at their adorable selves, and the adorable eggs that they produce are worth it as well. But folks, that's where we're going to leave it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. I'm going to do a bit of building in the next episode. We're going to work on a proper surrounding for our super smelter so that we can have a blacksmith's house here in our spawn area. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.